is a presentation of Financial Crisis Recovery.
Foreclosure, short sales, bankruptcy, credit card debt, job loss, depreciating home values, money management. Peace of mind when it comes to your finances seems completely out of reach under current conditions, but there is a way to achieve it. For the next 60 minutes, you're going to find out how to cover your assets. Cover your assets. Now, here's nationally renowned speaker and expert on getting you on the path to financial strength, Todd Rooker.
Well, a nice Saturday morning to everyone out there listening. Welcome to Cover Your Assets on ESPN 1500. We are going to be talking about, as we always do, all things financial. And today we're going to be talking specifically about credit scoring, how to manipulate a credit score, how to maintain a credit score, and maybe most importantly, some inside secrets, the dirty little secrets nobody wants to tell you. A lot of times that's a lot of bunk. We're going to tell you some things about the credit scoring industry, the credit scoring model, and things that you probably have not ever heard before. And these are things that I teach at my classes at Kaplan Professional Schools, and I would encourage anyone to go to our website, cya21.com. And there you can find events and classes, or you can go to my website. That is ToddHelp, ToddHelp.com. And there again, click on events and classes, and it will take you a link directly to Kaplan's website and present to you a synopsis of the classes that I teach with Kaplan Professional Schools. I believe I teach 4 or 5 of them now at this point. Multitude of topics, but this one in particular is credit and credit scoring, and that particular class is CSI Minnesota, Credit Score Investigation, CSI Minnesota. And it's an 8-hour class, and so obviously on a 1-hour radio show, I'm not going to have any ability to impart all of that information, but I'm going to give you some pretty intriguing stuff that you probably have never heard before. And so for those of you who are or have gone through a financial crisis and are looking to rebuild your credit in the shortest period of time possible, I'm going to attempt to impart some valuable information and insight to help you do that. If you have questions this morning on credit, how to keep and maintain a good credit score, how to rebuild credit in the face of financial crisis, how long it takes to recover, and all the things that are required to build a credit rebuild a credit score in a fraction of the time that it might ordinarily take. I've got the answers. I can give you that insight and probably provide you with information you've never heard before. If you have questions on this, if you have particular issues related to your own personal situation or clients, friends, family members, and you want to have questions answered on their behalf, God knows no one wants it to be associated with them. But I found out long ago, if you want to do a seminar on credit, don't say how to fix your bad credit. Instead, say how to keep and maintain a good credit score. Then people will show up. But no one wants to be associated with bad credit, God forbid. And so what they do instead is they will never show up to a class or to a seminar that says how to fix your bad credit. But they will show up to one to keep and maintain your good credit. They
come with glasses on and a trench coat, and they don't want to be seen.
And a wig.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So maybe you can maintain your anonymity here today on the show. By all means, call in, and I'll try to answer your questions live on the air here with Cover Your Assets. That phone number to call in is 651-646-8255. Let me say that number again. Write it down. You want these questions answered. You want to talk to a bona fide expert on credit. Let me tell you what, I will certainly put myself out as exactly that. 651-646-8255. Call us to get your questions answered related to credit. So now, let's begin talking about credit, because the show that we did last week was a show on how to position yourself for future financing. So I want to, right from the beginning and get-go, let you know that credit scoring is a very important component to seeking financing for cars, auto financing, mortgage financing, whatever. But remember, it's not the end-all. There's many other things that go into the underwriting equation besides credit. However, hey, oftentimes times, credit and credit score will be the barrier to getting financing, and it may be at least one of the major components that needs to be built up before you're going to get any type of financing, at least at a reasonable interest rate. So let's begin by talking about who are the credit bureaus, who is the credit industry, and all that kind of stuff. So first off, the people who you might associate with credit scoring, that meaning the big three in credit scoring, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, do they create credit scores? No, they provide credit information, often referred to as a repository. That means they have the information, but generally there are credit scoring models out there. One of the largest in the entire nation and in the United Kingdom that's used is the FICO model, which is Fair Isaac, that resides right out in Arden Hills. So they're right in our backyard. And a lot of the information that I'm going to give to you comes to you because I have gleaned insight by talking with people who work in different companies who actually are involved in the credit scoring model and how that model works specifically, and most importantly, how to manipulate that credit scoring model. And I think, for some of you, when I use the term manipulate, that's a bit abrasive. But let me tell you this. If a person has had fabulous credit their whole lives, meaning in the high 700s, maybe even low 800 scoring range, and they then get beaten up financially and their credit goes in the so-called tank and they go to 550, 600, those people don't want to hear about how it's going to take 20 more years to rebuild their credit score to get back to where they used to be. They now are in a different situation, and the proposition is no longer how to slowly keep and maintain a credit score, but rather how do I manipulate the model to come screaming back as quickly as I possibly can. So back to it here. Who are the credit bureaus and what do they do? Well, again, I'll make the separation. They're repositories of information. However, I think a lot of people would be surprised that they are the largest provider of qualified lists in the entire country. These organizations keep and maintain qualified lists. So if I wanted to know, because I was a landscaper, or I were a real estate agent, a mortgage broker, a insurance agent, a financial advisor, and I wanted a qualified list. I think most consumers would be shocked to find that I could call up and I could ask for, let's say, 5 criterion to qualify my list, such as, hey, I want the folks who are on my list to be in the 554 zip code. Let's just say that that's in my backyard, and I'd like to be able to do business within close proximity to where I live. I want 2,000 names of people in the 554 zip code. I want those people to have credit scores of 680 or higher. I want them to have a median household income of $80,000 or more. I want them to have, let's say, a mortgage in excess of $300,000. And and so I've now qualified a list quite substantially, and I want to make sure that all the people who are on my list don't have any judgments or collections out there on them. Well, I think most people would be shocked to find that I can call up any one of the major credit industries and I could request that list. I could purchase that qualified list, and no one whose name is on my list, which undoubtedly I know a bit about you if you're on my list, don't I? No one who's on my list would need to be asked if it was okay with them if that list were sold to me, and I could get all of that information without anybody's authorization, meaning specifically the consumer, because in point of fact, that's the business they're in, the list company, the list broker services. They sell qualified lists. Now, if you want a credit report per se, then you're going to need to have what's known as permissible purpose, which is a justifiable reason as to why you should be able to pull credit in the first place. But, that's a different situation. When I'm pulling a credit report, I have to have a reason and a justification for why I can pull credit in the first place. And now I do need to have your authorization to pull a so-called credit report. It's a different proposition than when I'm just asking for a qualified list. However, remember, if your name is on my list, I know a whole lot about you, and nobody needs to ask you if it's okay with you. So the bottom line is, at the end of the day, the credit industry really is involved very tightly as a list broker service, and a credit report is nothing more than taking all of the information they already have on all of us, bundling it into this product, we'll call it, called a credit report, and selling it as another product to sell. That's end of the day, that's really what it is, and that's who these folks are. Now, obviously, the more times your information is sold, the more valuable you are to the credit industry, and whether that means because your credit is low or because your credit is high, if your information winds up on a list more frequently that gets purchased, then your information, your name, is more valuable to them, and that's something important to know. The other thing to recognize is that the credit bureaus, per se, as they are often incorrectly referred to rather than repositories, oftentimes people believe that they are government agencies, and that is absolutely not true. These are independent businesses, and they are driven by profit, like all independent businesses. So some of the basics you just have to understand right off the bat, that it's all about making money. And they have to abide by the guidelines, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, but don't forget that they have very powerful people who are involved in the legislation of what is and isn't required. So like all industries that are strong and powerful, i.e. the financial industry, they have folks who they can put at pressure points to try to make those laws and those guidelines come out in their favor. And frankly, most consumers are completely oblivious to all of this. So isn't it interesting that most people believe what makes up a credit score basically, for the most part, has everything to do with whether I do or don't pay my bills on time? Really? Is that true? It's not true. If it were true, I wouldn't have people who are 60 years of age, 35 years of payment history, never missed a payment in their entire lives, have a net worth, as in retirement assets, that exceed $1 million, yet they have a horribly low credit score. Now, mind you, I didn't say a bad credit report. I didn't say derogatory payment history. I said they have a low credit score. And at the end of the day, you got a low credit score, tell you what, you're not getting financing, or if you are, you're going to pay through the nose for it. So, how's that possible? Well, I'll tell you what. Number one, you've got to have some notion of what makes up the credit scoring model. So if you've got a paper and pencil and you're taking notes, and I literally recommend that every time you listen to my show, I believe you're going to hear things that you don't hear anywhere else, and I expect that you would want to take notes, because this is pretty powerful information if you understand it, and thereby, if you understand things, then you know how to play the game. It's a little bit hard to try to accomplish something in terms of, building up your credit score or anything else we talk about financially on this show, all things financial, if you don't know the rules to the game. If you're running the wrong direction on the baseball diamond, it doesn't matter that you knocked it out of the park. So you got to know what you're doing. You got to have some notion of how things work. So first off,